Twice going live.
Hello, greetings everyone. Welcome back.
Hello, good day.
To our live Q&A here on Ashala'S YouTube channel. Of course, as always, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I have Crystal joining me today. Before we go ahead and start looking at your questions, we want to make an announcement. Our dear friend Anita, our colleague, co-creator, is deciding to take some time away. She has some family commitments, so we're going to miss her very much. But she's no longer available to take sessions on the platform. And my apologies for any inconvenience for any of you that were maybe planning to get a session with her down the road. We are looking at a couple of new people that we're considering bringing in that are super high quality readers, healers, and so look forward to meeting some new folks here maybe in the new year. So for now, you're stuck with good old us, and welcome everybody.
Not too shabby.
Hi Ricky. Hi Suzanne.
Hello,
Susan. Let's warm up the cards, Crystal. Let's warm up and see what's coming through today, and let's look at questions.
Hello, Tarot by Lupa. Welcome. Okay, so here we
got
go.
A question right there. Is Uranus and the Sun about to give birth to a new planet?
Oh, beautiful.
Well, you know, this is all up for discussion at this time. We know we are going into this new phase. We've been talking about Pluto moving into Aquarius. For those of you that aren't familiar, Pluto is the planet of really big energy, big change, big transformation. And it's been in the house of Capricorn for, gosh, close to 20 years, apparently. And we've all been feeling that because when it goes through a particular sign, it creates huge change. It really goes in and scours out the imbalances, the dis-ease of that particular area of the astrological wheel. So in this case, the imbalance and dis-ease around governments, money, systems, control, you know, Capricorn being all about these big world structures, these big power, hierarchical structures. We do need some of that, but almost like we need more of that power and hierarchical structure internally. We need to have more, you know, self-development spiritually into the hierarchical realms, into the interdimensional realms, and put less of that control outside of ourselves into these external, you know, almost like artificial matrices. So really, you could say that Aquarius moving through, Pluto moving through the sign of Capricorn has been clearing out the dis-ease or the lack of sustainability of how powerfully dominant some of these big systems have gotten. So now we are looking at this Pluto, the planet Pluto, moving through Aquarius. And Aquarius, we know, is so much more about humanity. It's the humanitarian sign. It's the sign that is about, you know, really coming back to power, back to the people, and also into our humanness. And we're also on the brink of going into the age of Aquarius. So you could say it's a double Aquarius whammy in a way, right? It's this really big. So the Pluto going through the sign of Aquarius the next 20 odd years, and our whole precession of the equinox going into the age of Aquarius for the next 2,500 years. So we are on that tipping point of really rediscovering what the new human evolution looks like. And we're going to be looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly with that, right? And what your question is saying, Susan, is like, what's going on in the solar system? Because it's very connected to what we are doing in our inner. It's almost like the universe is inside of us and outside of us. So if we're giving birth to a new sun, and our solar system, parts of our solar system are giving birth to a new sun, a new planet, that's very as without, so within. And let's see what the cards have to say about this particular question. Uranus and or the sun about to give birth to a new planet. So what are you getting with that, Crystal? What's your first take?
I find it interesting that the answer to the question is the moon. And so I feel like there is possibly a healing and an upgrading that is happening for planets right now and for the whole system. I feel like they have been very affected by just as we are affected by all of these heavy energies that are out there, and attacks on their systems. Like they are in need of rest and healing right now. And going into their own subconscious, or like, what we would consider our subconscious, but going into their own kind of dark nights of the soul before there's birth that's able to take place. So there's still healing that's happening for them.
Yeah.
That's what I see on those two.
Beautiful, Crystal. Really amazing.
Yeah. What do you think, Mama?
I agree entirely. Wow, that's an amazing read of this. And it really feels like it is that maybe a little bit early to be imagining the birth of a new planet. And there is something around the reintegration of these moons. So we might be seeing something to do with what we call our moon. There's a lot more about the moons first before we get into the planets. And there's it's interesting, as Crystal was saying, these planets and moons are like beings, and they've also been, in a way, like captured and like reduced to their lowest base element in a way. So there's something, this is a very powerful question you're asking, Suzanne, of course, as always.
Yes, thank you.
Because it's really speaking to, like, are we ready to birth the new? Because we've got a lot of healing. If we birth the new from this place, it's like trying to rebuild when you have no materials and everybody's exhausted. So it feels like we're looking at some time, as Crystal said, look at this, the gateway of the deep subconscious, and then all of this dark matter coming up.
These two like real pillar cards, the gateway cards here with the High Priestess and the moon.
In fact, those two cards are an inversion of each other. We see this side of the gateway with the High Priestess, and we're on the other side with the moon. So there's this balancing coming in with the Two of Swords here and the Two Cups with the Temperance, which is all about balance, right? So there's something about we have to come into a harmonic balance. And harmony is the number 6, and that's where we're going. And it's interesting. The lovers get together to give birth to something. Yes. So we are looking at.
And the sun's in the background there. So, and the sun is in the background of the moon here, which I always find so magical about this card. And so we could really be looking at possibly, for sure, the sun giving birth to new planet. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and who knows what that looks like? Maybe the sun and the moon get together and have a baby, a new birth, a new earth birth.
So yeah, we're, you know, I guess what we're saying is that this is a beautiful process. We don't want to rush, as always. Sorry, I'm always the one that puts the brakes on to everybody's excitement, but it's not that I'm trying to damper it. I'm trying to actually flesh it out even more into an expanded, like we can just be in awe, in revelation and awe right now. You see the divine intervention with these wings here and here. We can, excuse me, we can really be just in awe and held in this magical turning point that we're in, and enjoy the process. So when the time is right is what I'm getting with this beautiful question. Thank you, Suzanne.
Sunny Sis has
yeah, I see that. Okay, so we're going to veer off onto a different angle here for a minute, and welcome everyone that's joining us. Tarot by Lupa, lovely to see familiar faces coming in every week, and it's just awesome to share with you. Most of the job do not want to know anything about the true agenda. Will they officially get help how to deal with the job's implications? I think they cannot be left alone. Yeah, it comes up very often in sessions when I do readings for most of my clients are awake people. And it's a real concern. You know, we've seen, I feel like there was a lot of angst in our ranks 3 or 4 years ago when we were like, you know, when we got put through the ringer because we chose to go against the grain, we were kind of like, well, you know, you're going to get yours because, you know, you guys wouldn't wake up. Well, it's certainly way past that now. Like the majority of the awake people I talk to have so much concern and care and compassion for their families and friends and so on. And, you know, now that we see very, very, very gradually more and more of the true narrative coming out in the mainstream media, it's always been this very interesting full spectrum from what I've witnessed. Is there's every way that people can go through this. Everything from some people will have such a grand awakening and they will make it their mission to bring the truth to the masses and discover, like, there'll be people that devote their lives to finding, you know, protocols to help reverse the effects of the damage done. The truth is, as we know, we are all damaged by a lot of what circulated back then. It wasn't just the jobs. There's a lot of damaging material in our food, in our air, in our water, and yeah, it's been an onslaught. All of our systems are struggling. So it's not so much a black and white us and them as it is, okay, we got a lot of healing to do here. Go ahead, Crystal, lay out the cards and let's see what.
Did you through pilot?
I did not. Go ahead, you do that.
Okay.
Yeah. See where we are today on this. What Spirit wants to show us today. Wow. Yeah. Can we just maybe set them right over here and here like that? Does that work? Just a little bit more in the middle.
How about over here like this?
Look at her.
Just kidding. I was just gonna lay them down and then position them because they seem to float all over the place anyhow. So if I get them down, then here's those two again. Oh okay, now I adjust here and make sure everyone can see real good. Big things to see here.
Big things to see. Holy, eh? You want me to go first?
Yes, please.
All right. So this is kind of like the 50-50 card. We've got a foot in both worlds. And can we acknowledge that whatever way it goes, it's a gift for each individual? And I know, I mean, that is like, how can it be a gift if somebody has an adverse reaction and ends up with the worst consequence, right? And really, we've got the moon and the death card, and that usually indicates a lot of people exiting.
Yeah.
We're not going to candy coat that. However, we've got sovereign. Okay, so there's the sovereign is in the recent past, and this is a true sovereignty kind of like litmus test, is what I'm hearing. So we all got to choose. We all got the sovereign choice. And we can say, why would you make that choice? I mean, there's a million whys, right? A lot of people, when they declared why they chose to get the jab, like the reasons they gave were so minimal. But then they, on more reflection, they said, well, I just couldn't face the other choice. I couldn't face knowing all that stuff. I couldn't face looking at that. I couldn't face what that did to my worldview. That is a choice, and that is sovereignty, and that is actually the freedom that we want to advocate for on this planet. We don't want to say, you're going to be shamed, you made the bad choice. Every choice has consequences. Not all the consequences are black and white, straightforward. So, it's a larger spiritual.
Yeah.
It's a larger spiritual, let's just say, rationale or sort of like existential crisis here. But what's important is that we acknowledge that everyone took their choice. Everyone had their vote. You could say, oh yeah, but they were pressured by their bosses, by their families. Weren't a lot of you? It's not about, we want to say they had the right to make that choice, and they will go through consequences to varying degrees, but there's a gift in it.
I feel like to look at it, without anger and without feeling sorry for them, because actually to make the choice and to get it, not really understanding that the possibility is like pretty scary about what could happen to them. It actually feels to me like a subconscious karmic contract to enter into making the choice to get the jab, and that they are actually signing up to be these beings that potentially are sacrificing parts of themselves and their lives to us and the world, waking up and realizing what they could potentially do to us, what the they that's out there could potentially do to us, right? And it a little bit of analogy that tied in with it for me was when you used to always say that our homeless people or unhoused or mentally unwell, all of those people that are growing in numbers so vastly now, you used to always say to me that those are the people that have the contract to carry the dark of our planet, so that we can continue to live in the light and raise up, and that we need those people in a way, and that's a pretty hefty contract to sign up for, and so we honor them. And so to sign up to be one of those people in this lifetime that got the jab, instead of us feeling angry at them or sorry for them, we can always be grateful that they made that contract in this life to walk that path, and we're not shaming them necessarily anymore. We're getting more curious.
It's like they've martyred themselves in a way.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very tricky territory, martyrdom, because it is not, in the greater scheme of things, it is not a healthy, I want to say, bias to lean into martyrdom. And I think it's more complicated than just martyrdom. So I think what we're doing is we're pointing out there's both sides to the story. Just like this.
Yes.
There's two sides to this story. On the one hand, it's a huge karmic weight to carry, but on so many levels. Like I said, we're all here participating in this big experiment right now. We are getting so many negative effects put upon us. We have somehow signed up for that, and we've allowed it to continue. Now, you can say, well, no, I haven't. I've been screaming and yelling about it I certainly have been screaming and yelling about it for decades. But again, we haven't found the magical design to transform this into something beautiful yet. So we've still got a lot of work to do. And they perhaps, maybe they were just escaping. Maybe they just wanted out at this point because it was going to get really wild and intense. Maybe they needed to martyr themselves on some level. So what do we do about all that, right? I think what we're trying to resolve here is that there was sovereign choice. On some level, it created an opportunity for growth. We've all participated in this grand experiment to some degree. And what do we do now is wherever they are, we just meet them there in love and compassion and bring our healing tools. So we bring whatever medicines we've gathered, whatever protocols we've learned about, whatever, whatever we need to support them with their mental health, with the process of it all. We do not, as you're saying there, Sunny, says, we do not abandon them and just go, well, it was their fault because they went along with it. Like, I think there was a lot of anger back 3 years ago or 4 years ago when we were going like, we have to stand out on this edge and get persecuted. And you're all going along with it, the narrative, which is an easier path at that juncture. So,
and that's a pretty normal reaction. That's a very human experience to be having when you're faced with such massive conflict, right? We're going to react. And now we've had a chance to sit with the conflict, and we've had a chance to settle into ourselves and to come to that equilibrium. And now we get to walk this path together in a new way, in a much more healed way. So, no straight answers, but a lot of beautiful wisdom.
All right. So, Okay, we see the question about the why. I think I'm just going to carry on a little bit here, though, Susan. Oh, you asked this fun question.
About your name.
Okay, let's just jump into that. That looks like a fun question, and then we'll carry on to the next questions. But which is so funny that you put that with the Y energy, because my last name has the Y in it. And in case you're all wondering, this is actually my chosen name. And I have an interesting story with how I got this name, and it was my third name. So I was born with a name, and then I was adopted and given I was born with a whole set of names, and then I was adopted and given a new set of names. And then, in my late teens, early 20s, I really went on a great spiritual journey of self-discovery and aware that I wasn't really feeling aligned with the name that I was given at adoption, and also didn't feel it was appropriate to take my birth name back. And so I went on a quest to find my name, and I ended up down the the rabbit hole of numerology, interestingly enough. And I wasn't entirely convinced that I believed in the Kabbalion style of numerology, but I was willing to. I felt really drawn to the name Ashala. And I was willing to work with that and make it my own, not just go into changing my name because the Kabbalion said that I should. I really went in with a deep, open heart and a real spiritual purpose on the journey. So in a way, what you're saying is true. It was a spiritual call, and I found myself in a way suspended from that tree of knowledge. If we find let's pull cards on it, Crystal. If you want to,
I think you better
I
shuffle
better
on
shuffle.
that one.
Yeah.
I
So
think
I legally changed my name when I was 23, I guess. So I've had it for a really long time. And as far as I know, the name is similar in origin to some Persian names that mean, like Anshallah, which means with God's help. But yes, it is very, very interesting. Even I chose my last name, Yardley, as well, and it connects to being the one that keeps the trees, the owner of the yard, which is where it's kind of like the copse where the trees were grown. So the manager of the forest, in a way you could say. So there is definitely, I really resonate with all the tree of knowledge that I've suspended myself, from that tree of knowledge ever since then, really, and been studying and gathering wisdom and information. So it felt like it was a spiritual name. Let's see what the cards say about it.
Want 3 cards, maybe?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, right. Okay. So yeah, it feels like it was given to me. I took it in very deeply, and the wisdom of the ash the ash tree is meant to be a guiding light, and working with ancestors and my roots and all of that. It's very, very relevant to me. The synchronicities and the magic in how these names have come to me. Interesting. It's when you take a call like that, when you open yourself to a purpose, to a direction, it is a constant growth. There's no, we think about, like, can we look and see? Would you look?
I was going to pull a couple more.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say you could look and see. I'll pull one more, I guess, after that. And I'd like to look for the hanging man, because that is the depiction in that card is similar to the story of Yggdrasil, which is the tree of life in the Norse traditions. And yeah, so when you take on a call like this, 5 of Wands it's training. You're always working. You're always on duty, in a way. It's sort of like being chosen, but also accepting the call to a path of challenge. And there's a real tension, right? So when we see this character hanging, the hanging man, hanging from the tree of life, the tree of knowledge, Yggdrasil, being illuminated in the mind, it's not easy to hang, right? He's applying a yogic posture, because just hanging is not a passive thing. It creates, like, you have to work to stabilize all the time. You're always practicing balance. You're always working between the physical and the mental here. So, and you do have to work on your roots. So it's a very big balancing act. And, there's the 2 pillars again, which we saw earlier, and then the 2 cups with the temperance angel. I guess what I'm trying to say, and we just got 22 audience members at that moment. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a life of working through, we just talked about it this morning, the pretzel knots of the complexity, and always being somehow training and being challenged. There's a lot of challenge in it. So
we're here for it. Beautiful question, Susan. Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank
It's
you
a
for telling
fantastic
that.
name,
So
Ashala. There with pride and
yes.
honor. Well, and thanks for asking, because it's an interesting question, and I don't really even contemplate it that much anymore. It's been my name for so many years. And yeah, it is my legal name. Has the dark veil, or what would be called the overlaid matrix, been pulled down? Are we now in the natural matrix? Woof. We're both like, oh, Lord.
Tell us.
Okay, so
Let us
I'm
see.
just going to refer back to what we just looked at.
Okay.
We saw that 5 wands, the tension, the ongoing struggle, and we saw the hanging man suspended purposefully, but not passively. So what I'm hearing is we are still in suspense. There's still work to be done, but I've been getting for about the last 4 or 5 years that it's already gone. So there's a little bit of a feeling of we're still in the prison because we've grown so accustomed to it, we can't see beyond the bars that were never there in the first place. They were illusory bars, prison bars, right? So now we know that, but we still see them. We still can't seem to get beyond them. And we can go, what's wrong with me? Like, we can shame ourselves. Guess what? That's going to make them stronger. So what I keep saying is, don't worry about the bars. They're going to probably be there. For people from my generation, they're probably going to be there for the rest of our lives because it's an imprint that goes back thousands of years. We're not just going to erase it, but we can literally change the scene. It's almost like, you can zoom in and out with those old images that you used to be able to stare at it for a minute and then you could see something else. That's what I'm being shown, is like we're literally looking beyond the bars. In the forefront, we still see them, and we see them in our news. We see them in what's going on in, the Middle East and Eastern Europe and all of that, right? We're just seeing them there. And the trick is to not fixate on the bars, to look into the distance and see the greater picture emerging and not let ourselves be psyched out by those bars. You want to go ahead?
I'm going to get you to cut the deck.
Okay. So the dark veil, overlaid matrix, has it been pulled down? Are we actually in the natural matrix? That looks like a big ol' yes to me. That looks like a big ol' yes. And that's kind of what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, all the yes cards, but it still feels like it.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, you want to speak about that guy.
It feels almost like it feels almost like really like utilizing what we learned from this old matrix. Like it's kind of like not learning from our mistakes, but we're really being shown what the matrix is right now, like through so much of our discovery of the stickiness of 3D and what the matrix like feels like. And there's a new upgrading of consciousness that's coming from the understanding of that, and then utilizing the tools, all these tools that we've been gathering, all these ways that we've learned to navigate this matrix and still up level our consciousness through all of it. And it's been actually part of the assisting of our becoming, right? So we're shifting out of this space. Mom was talking about martyrdom, and this is the martyrdom card,
Mhm.
right? So shifting out of this space of martyrdom with this new energy frequency that's coming in, and we allow that new energy frequency, that 8 of Wands, to show us exactly what we pick up and take forward. We got that 1 wand that we're walking with here from the past. So it's really like utilizing the tools that we've collected and that we've harvested through navigating this matrix that we've been in. And are we now in the natural matrix? I mean, the pentacles are that natural based card, right? They are that like coming back into nature, and he's really going forward with the value of what he has cultivated in this experience.
Amazing. Well, crystals, right, you know, the natural matrix, nature, and the pentacles we have here are the 4 in the middle, and this knight who moves really slowly. He's the slowest moving character of the tarot. He goes very, very slow and steady. It's like the tortoise. And 4 of Pentacles is like that prison. In fact, we call it the prison cell. So is it possible that we still need a bit of the framework of the matrix, in the sense of like, we're not ready to just completely, and this is where I get into where everybody's ready to launch into like 5D, and I'm like, whoa boy, let's really get the first 3 dimensions, the first 4 dimensions nice and strong, because 5D is chaos. We want to aim for 6 and 7D, but we're never going to make it through 5 if we don't have 1, 2, and 3 really healthy. So this is, we somehow, I think Crystal's wise in saying that we're taking something of that matrix with us. It doesn't just all go in the garbage, because then we're like, you know, baby animals with nothing. Like we're just wobbling around. Like we're not stabilized enough yet. But the truth is, it's never really been there, for one thing. And secondly, I really get over the last 7 or 8 years, it's been more or less erased. So we've been outside of it for quite a while now. Yeah. And that, I think, is why we see the phenomena where all the tools in the tool, you know, the tricks in the book for the dark force, they're throwing the whole book at us. Nonstop, right? Every way that they can manipulate our thoughts, our feelings, our attention, our emotions, our psyche, like just inundating us night and day with media, with all kinds of toxicity and, you know, fear and just everything, right? And it's like, well, that's to really continue to reinforce as much of this locked in feeling as possible. But we are just busting out nonstop. And the truth was they lost their edge quite a while ago. So, and that's what, you know, that's the overall narrative. But is that just going to go poof? Well, again, there's something about like the journey. This guy has been through the battle, and he's not really ready to step into like the next, you know, he's got to move really slow and steady here. He's not really ready to just jump into something new that's going to be instantly healthy and whole. He's got to heal first. So
also, to top that off and to just finish it off to the answer of the question, are we now in the natural matrix? This is the yes card here. So potentially yes, as we were saying. So that is some really beautiful, clear clarification on, we got the yes in there as well. So,
okay, this is so interesting because there's a question here. Lorna Beebe is asking about trees in her yard. I have trees self-planting in my yard, several oak. A huge uncommon to my area also are maple or Tataria maple, also dogwood. Why are they wanting to be in my yard? Oh my goodness. What a cool question. Now, your question is bringing something into my consciousness that I feel I dreamt about something with trees last night. So I'm just going to close my eyes while Crystal's shuffling, and I'm going to see if I can remember. There was something with communicating directly with trees in my dream last night. So let me just tune in here for a sec.
I'm also going to say that we had the wonderful experience this summer of spending some time in a community setting with a B&B host in the interior that had a yard that was almost entirely based on volunteer food forest plants. And the way that those plants and them being in the allowing and the dance of cultivating all of it, all of those plants that are coming up, it created its own entire food forest ecosystem in the city. And it was so beautiful to see how the animals came back, and the frogs and the snakes, and just how much life was present when they allowed and cultivated and ingested all of the medicine that was coming up around them on the land. So to me, that also speaks to the frequency, Lorna, that you hold and that you're cultivating in co-creation with the land that you're on.
Well, I'm not remembering exactly the narrative of the dream, and it was either last night or the night before, but I'm remembering the feeling, the essence of that dream. And what it was our natural allies, both flora and fauna. They're obviously in many traditions around the world, we see them not as these separate species, but we see them as almost like our cousins or our, our family. They're like, they're different, they act different, they live different, they're like from a different culture, but we feel them and they feel us, and we can actually have a phenomenal relationship and work together. And there's a tremendous amount of love and respect that goes back and forth between, particularly, trees. Okay, we're back. Something happened. We're going to have to look at our Starlink again. I think we should just go stand up, hang out up in a tree and do this and use the tree antenna from now on. Oh my goodness. Anyway, it's funny actually, because we have this beautiful big tree outside our new place, but I do think it does interfere with our Starlink sometimes. So that's quite comical. That just when we're talking about trees, he's out there going, hello.
Can't get to me.
Oh my gracious. Anyway, the feeling of this time of year where a lot of us in North America celebrating the season, we're bringing boughs in, or maybe bringing trees in. We are like, it's the one time of year we really commune with our tree relatives. And I just feel like there's so much that we can do with them. We can help them and they can help us. It's such a beautiful relationship of mutual benefit. Wow. Isn't that interesting? I'm getting a feeling about that.
Go, Mama, go.
Well, I get, Lorna, that they're coming to actually, just funny that we had the break in the Starlink. I feel like they're shielding you. They're shielding your property from a whole pile of different outside energies that are not healthy. And, in a way, in exchange, what they're asking for is for you, well, certainly to advocate for them, meaning that you're going to make sure they have, they're protected as much as possible. You're looking after them in whatever way they need. And also that you are communing and communicating with them. This is a communicator card and this is the intuition card. So they're asking for you to commune and talk to them, literally. And
fall in love with them.
Yeah, look at this guy.
With this knight, it's like your ancestors coming in.
Oh,
right? And really choosing to show up and like open your heart in a way to as Mom said, communing with them and advocating for them and working the land, like really like getting out there. And the 7 and 8 of Pentacles, that's so beautiful. It's your connection to the tangibility that Earth offers us, the grounding, the resources, everything that is available for you. It's quite a gift.
Yeah, they've chosen you, and they want to work with you, basically. And they're asking you, what would you like to do? Look into the properties of these trees and how you can work with them. I do talk to them. I feel they've been out there for my protection. Your intuition was correct.
Yes.
Totally, Lorna.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, so beautiful. It's interesting too, because Susan asked about the ash tree, and there's if you look into, many cultures that our Northern European ancestors were really had strong relationships with the deciduous trees, and they had attributed different properties, both physical healing properties and metaphysical healing properties with each of the trees. So maybe look into that, Lorna, and then you can discover how you can work with that. If it's, is there some sort of healing balm that you can create and share with your neighbors or friends? Because they want you to utilize what they offer, and they also want to commune with you.
And forest bathing, inviting people in also to commune with them. Okay, we have a few more minutes for one more question. Let's hop on to Tarot by Lupo. I've grown fruit and veg on my small plot for 30 years. I recently feel called to explore planting by the phases of the moon. Can you read on whether this will be beneficial? I love that.
I'm going to keep my big mouth shut.
I was going to say, I feel like Mom has so much to say about this.
I just want to see what the cards say.
Me too. How about you also shuffle them?
Okay.
How about we shuffle them together? Well done also for growing fruit and vegetables for 30 years on your plot. What a beautiful, powerful achievement. Yes.
There we go.
What do we think? Should we do 3 cards? Should we do a Kachina? What do we feel?
3 cards.
Yeah, I felt that too. Wow. Perplexing.
Well, okay, so it's been tough out there. Have you noticed, Tarot by Lupo, have you noticed that crop yields have been diminished, or the quality of your vegetables have been reduced over the last 5+ years? Like, this feels to me like harsh conditions, drought or early frost, or just, we think about what's coming in the atmosphere, right? Acid rain and all the different effects of what is going on. some of it, dark manipulators agenda stuff, and some of it just human folly. So, and then some of it natural cycles. So it's really hard to tease out which is what, right? I'm definitely not a climate change denier, but I also don't believe the way that whole narrative is being shoved down our throats, and I think it's being utilized for manipulation, and that is wrong in my book. So, yes, the plants have been struggling, is what I'm seeing, but they are actually offering you. There's something that's almost like what we were just saying earlier, that they've chosen you. They're saying, you know what, we're going to show you a new way, because the outer effects, as we go through this next, we're still in the tear down, right, of the old. And it's tear down is a messy process, right? It's like there is just in the tearing, like if we think of the old cabal system as a big, giant cement building, we want to pull it down. You're going to have to get a wrecking ball in there, and then you're going to have to like haul all that debris out. It's going to be a long process to kind of just clear all that. And it's a very toxic process. So going through this next, year, 3 years, 5 years, maybe decade, there's going to be more fallout in terms of the cleanup toxin. And your plants are saying, we're going to help you by working with the cycles, so that there's, literally, the cycles themselves can be worked and harnessed to create protection. And I would suggest maybe going a little bit beyond the moon cycles. I'm going to give you my quick little rant on growing fruit and vegetables with the current climate, not just the temperature climate, but all of the different chaotic elements that go with this big changing time, right? And to me, it's wise, of course, to plant in the cycles, and it's also wise to plant in certain locations. So, for example, I consider planting all root vegetables and hard-shelled vegetables out in the open as much as possible, watering them with underground water. And everything else that is open to the air and the sunshine, I like to plant in greenhouses or covered, so that it's not just getting rained on by all of that toxic energy that's going around. And then obviously fruit is growing on, trees naturally, so that we just really go through a very thorough cleaning process with our fruit. So it opens up a big conversation, but I think you're on to something, and I think your plants themselves are giving you a little nudge here. And I think you're going to start to learn more as you begin to explore this. And I really honor you, as Crystal said, for being someone that is taking the initiative to work with your own food production, because it's such a very basic beginner step that I feel is there for all of us, and we can support each other. We can learn and share what works, right? I just shared with you something that I've been working with over the last couple of decades, and there's so many people here to share what your wisdom and learning is. So I think we're
Beautiful.
Miles to go with this.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that. I love that. And I mean, always exploring how, there could be some things that you do plant with the phases of the moon. It's kind of like controlled experiments and stuff like that, and really sort of tune into what plants might want to be planted in those cycles, and have like just a few things that you intentionally plant in those cycles and see if that really makes a difference. Because if you then you can really notice and decide that for yourself, and with the communion with your plants.
Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of us are gonna become plant geeks.
Yeah,
here
keep
in the
us
next
posted.
in the next decade. I
that's
think
beautiful.
we're so many of us awake people, once we can just sort of step away from the front line a little bit and be like, okay, we've stabilized, there's enough truth out in the world, and there's enough systems that are recalibrating. Let's go do something else for a while. And I think we're going to become plant geeks, really. Like that's our next calling, is to start getting onto these chats and talking about all the amazing things that are working for us and in different regions. There's definitely not a one size fits all with any sort of wisdom around working with plants and with growing our food. And yet there's so much available to us now. Like, I just think of, growing a simple tomato. Like, we literally could grow 500 different varieties of tomatoes in probably 500 different ways right now. Like, everything from hydroponic, hanging from a ceiling out of a bag, to like, it's like, there's technologies, both physical and knowledge based, that can just give us so much insight about planting.
Yes, and then also like Lorna Beebe with her volunteer trees that are growing on her land. I mean, it's so the divine journey of us being ready, open, and willing to have this process and take this journey of the true co-creation and nourishment that the earth has to offer us, and that we have to offer the earth. So well done again, Tarot by Lupo.
Mm-hmm. All righty, so let's just look. We've done that one already.
Yes.
I think we're pretty much going to wrap up. I'm filming with Janine here in just about 45 minutes, so I got to go get ready to do that. We're actually filming a tarot and numerology course that's going to be up on the Beyond Mystic platform, I think by middle of next week or something like that. So can look forward to checking that out. It's like Janine and I putting our heads together on this topic, and it's just interesting, going back to the question about, I've been working with numbers and number symbolism for, gosh, as long as you've been alive, Crystal. Yes. I won't say how long that is.
I'm 40.
Right? So this is, it's knowing these things, working with these things. I don't just follow any one system verbatim and say, this is, the bee's knees and it's absolute truth. I always look and just sort of gather from that what's really workable for me and what feels in alignment with my inner truth. I don't expect any system to be perfect. It's like there's always evolution. We're always learning more. But I look at how it can perfectly work for me, what aspects of it I can weave into my daily life experience. And it has helped me. It's helped me to know about the phases of the moon, to know about what different trees' medicines are, both physical and metaphysical, and to know about the metaphysical significance of numbers. I've used that awareness. It's supported me a lot in my life. So I'm really delighted to share some of these skills with you, and there's lots more where this came from. So
surely is. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's such an honor and a pleasure to have you tune in with us every week, and we'll see you next week.
Looking forward to it.
Take care.
Have a lovely week. Bye for now, everybody.